Welcome back. Good to have you in. Doug Gottlieb around the corner. Joy Taylor is joining me. It's the Herd on a Monday. We're packed today. So for years and years, I lived in Vegas. And when I lived in Vegas 25 years ago, college basketball was massive. It felt bigger than the Super Bowl. And March Madness and Bracket Monday was gigantic. And the college basketball years ago, where NBA guys like Patrick Ewing would come back for a sophomore, junior, senior year, see how good Zion Williamson is. Can you imagine him coming back for 4 years? That's what college basketball was like 25 years ago. It was amazing. Great players and great teams. Everybody came back as juniors and as seniors. Zion Williamson and Duke, it's a remarkable story. I like them to win the tournament and get to the national championship. But one thing I always learned in Vegas was don't fall in love with the upsets. There'll be a couple in the first round. Don't go crazy. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds dominate this tournament, and that there's only 8 teams that can actually win it, because you got to win 6 straight games. You got to have a good coach. You generally have to have a dominant NBA player or a really good scorer. Good backcourt, smart guard play helps. This year I've watched I watch a lot of college basketball. I don't talk a ton about it because nobody knows who the players are outside of a couple of guys for Duke, but I watch a lot of it. This year I think there's 6 teams that can win it, and I'll put it right up there for you. Duke, Gonzaga, Michigan, Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. I think Kentucky's close, but they're too inconsistent. Sometimes Calipari overcoaches in the tournament. And frankly, they're 5-4 against ranked teams. I think Michigan State is close, but I don't think they can win 6 straight games. I actually like Michigan. Thought they should have won yesterday in a crazy Big Ten championship. I think they have the best game coach in college basketball, and they're built to win. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. I like their demeanor. They're good enough to beat anybody, but they're not talented enough to overlook anybody. I think Michigan they're getting crushed this morning because everybody thinks they should be a 3 seed, not a 2 seed. I think Michigan ends up in the final 4. So I like Michigan a lot, and I've liked them all year. I've told you all year I think Duke plays Michigan in the national championship. Duke's getting better. That's what happens with freshman teams. But everybody, the more options you give me, they keep adding teams to this tournament over the last 20 years, but they're not adding 1 and 2 seeds. They're adding junk. They're not adding quality. It's like this gigantic menu. If you work in the restaurant business, everybody orders about 6 things off a menu. If you're expanding your menu, you're not adding chicken parm. Okay, that's what people have ordered for years. You're not adding a New York strip, a baked potato, or broccolini. That stuff's been on the menu for years. You're adding stuff that's new, but it'll never be as popular. And so I saw a story this weekend about millennials, the dreamers, and they're changing the world. And the story was that there are so many options now in vacations that 51% of millennials just go back to the place they went last year. Because there's so much anxiety and so many choices, they just go back to what's popular. And I go back to what matters in college basketball. Do you have a great coach? Do you have a coach who's been in the tournament? Do you have like one NBA guy? Do you have a smart backcourt? Are you capable of winning close games, not getting too high after a win and too low after a loss? These are my 6. Duke, Gonzaga, Michigan, Virginia, Tennessee, Carolina. I think Kentucky's close, but I don't think they can win 6 straight. And I think Michigan State's close, but in a tournament setting, I don't think they can win 6 straight. And there you go. There's my 6. Doug Gottlieb around the corner. Here's Joy Taylor.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So LeBron James has played the 15th most minutes in NBA history,
yes,
and he's the second among active players. He trails only Dirk. Even though he probably isn't too excited to be missing the postseason, he is being very optimistic about this extra time he's going to have.
Yeah, he will.
Absolutely. I mean, I've thought about how my summer's going to be. And, it's unfortunate that we're so far out of the postseason right now and looking like we won't be a part of it. So, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is just taking care of my body. I played a lot of basketball, played a lot of minutes over my 16-year career. So getting an opportunity to have a couple more months to take care of my body and refresh my mind and my body is going to be very key going into my 17th year. So looking forward to that.
He actually needs a break. I mean, it's a lost season, so he's going to get a break.
It's very, I don't think it's completely washed over all of us how weird it's going to be to watch the NBA playoffs without LeBron James. It's been so long.
That's right. I mean, even Kobe, Michael retired. Kobe had dips. Even the greatest players of all time disappeared from the playoffs every few years. It's like LeBron's been, for 15 years, our staple in the playoffs.
It's definitely going to be weird, but he does need the time off, and we always talk about how much extra wear and tear he's had because he has been in the playoffs and gone so far in the playoffs and obviously the Olympics. It's like he's played so much basketball over his career that at this particular point in the career, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, it's not a good thing as far as like legacy and the conversation about the the free agency period and what's going to happen with them moving forward. But
you can kind of brand this 20 years
he
from
does need a break.
20 years from now at a bar, you could say this and say, yeah, remember that season when everything went wrong for the Lakers and LeBron?
Right.
You just say that and everybody be okay with it. Like you could say, remember when Michael retired for a couple years to play baseball? And you're like, yeah, that was weird. But we don't hold it against him.
If LeBron comes back and wins a championship, or they come back and they're competitive. If it comes back and it's more of this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 4 years of this, it's a stain.
We're not going to get the same way. So Baker Mayfield is embracing the personality that Odell Beckham Jr. is bringing to the Browns. He was visiting the Brewers spring training in Phoenix, and Baker was asked about the emotions that Odell will add to the locker room.
You can say the same thing about me. You don't want to tame it. You just let them be themselves and make plays. You know what? That's who they are. When it comes down to it, the guys in that locker room, you know, you're going to love playing with them. And I know from Saquon and Sterling Shepard that I'm very close with, that I know exactly who OBJ is inside the locker room and who he is to his teammates. And that's the most important thing. Is people can have their, you know, attitudes and perspective on it, but he's himself, and he has his teammates back.
Yeah, I can't get used. He's a handsome kid. What's up with the beard? I just can't get used.
You're very picky and choosy about your beard. Sometimes you just love the beard, and sometimes you're way out.
I don't like. It's just very odd.
I think it's Baker, so you're gonna find something to say. I do think this is a lot about what you were talking about earlier with Roethlisberger. You don't need Odell to be a leader. You don't need Antonio Brown to be the leader. You need Baker to be the leader.
Thank you.
And in this particular situation with this team as it's currently assembled, Baker has to be the leader because he is the emotional drive of that team. He's the battery of that team.
By the way, this is going to be interesting, Joy, because at Oklahoma, let's face it, you line up 10 weeks a year and you blow past your opponent. You don't have to be a great leader. You could just be a good player. And then you go to the NFL last year with Cleveland. He didn't even start the year, and, you know, the expectations were low. This is the first time Baker is like in the captain's chair of the plane, and you got to make a tight landing here, and people are going to bang on you if you don't win the division because
it's all on him. Yeah. It is 100% on him. I'm with you with everything you just said. Is completely accurate. Last year he had nothing to do but go up because he didn't start the season. They fired the coach. They fired the offensive coordinator. It was chaos, and he still ended up having a great season. So to his credit, I do think that he is capable of leading this team. It is a lot of personalities, and it's a lot of stars, himself included, but what's going to be different for Baker is, and Cleveland, is that they're now playing with expectations. Whereas for I don't know how many years, they've had no expectations. So anything good that happens is like a bonus.
Oh, yeah.
You have to win now.
They're throwing a parade. They finished third place last year. Like now it's like second place is going to be, by the way, I'll be the first guy to stand up because this is not going to be an easy situation. Rookie head coach, outspoken GM, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham are challenging players. You got 3 legit running backs. One will come back halfway through the season. So if Baker can lead this team, I will tip the cap and say, this is not an easy team to quarterback. Yeah, I think you could put Tom Brady with this team, and there would be, I mean, listen, you gave Tom Brady a rookie coach, an outspoken GM, and 2 receivers that want 14 targets. This is not an easy team to quarterback.
I don't think it is, but I do think that they're going to pull it off this year because I have no faith in the Steelers anymore. I'm defeated. Finally, Dolphins fans got an interesting St. Patrick's Day surprise. Ryan Fitzpatrick agreed to a 2-year deal with Miami. Now, since the announcement, there's been some speculating on how that affects Miami's this storyline that they're tanking for Tua. I don't know what that means. They moved off Ryan Tannehill, which moving off Ryan Tannehill for Ryan Fitzpatrick is like, okay.
How about this? They just no longer wanted to be married to Tannehill.
That I understand. And they've probably explained to Ryan that this is a temporary situation. They're looking for the guy, and that's probably the situation. Tua doesn't excite me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not as big on Tua as everybody else is.
I still think they should make a move for a quarterback this year and let Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is a veteran, teach him how to be a pro.
That's what you should do. Go draft that kid at Missouri.
If you think you have the guy in this draft,
yeah,
obviously.
Missouri's got a talented kid, a little cocky, a little reckless, but fun and talented. Draft him and then let him learn from a pro. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live.
All right, let's bring in my friend. I listened to him yesterday doing that Michigan